Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. So what we're going to do today is something pretty simple, but some people might be a little intimidated by it. It's really nothing to be intimidated about. It's just an oil change and a hybrid. This here is a Lexus CT200H. It's going to be about the same as any kind of Prius or anything like that you're going to run into. Again, super simple, not something to be worried about. You just need some basic tools, just like doing a regular oil change really. So let's go ahead and get those out for you. Give me 1 sec. Okay, so these are going to be the basic tools we're going to need to do the job. First, we got a fender cover, just because it's always nice to protect your paint when you're working, just in case something happens. We have a 10mm socket on a ratchet and extension. That's going to be so that we can take the cover off the under tray, which you'll see in a second. We have a wrench to loosen the drain plug. This here is a pair of pliers. There's like a little lock clip that we're going to show you on the actual oil filter cartridge. That'll come into play. This here is, of course, the ratchet. This is actually a special tool to get the oil filter cartridge apart. It actually has little teeth on it here that actually lock into the cap, which, again, we'll show you later. A little screwdriver. It helps getting the O-rings and stuff off of the cartridge. And, of course, we're going to need filter and, of course, the oil for the car. Of course, now to get it picked up, we need a few other tools. We have a floor jack here, and then of course 2 jack stands and a wheel chock. We're gonna go ahead and throw that behind the wheel right now. Let's go ahead and get started on jacking this car up. All right, let's go ahead and put this wheel chock behind the wheel and get this car in the air. Alright, so the car's in the air. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to open the hood. Now, one thing you want to look out for if you're in like somewhere with a low ceiling or anything like that, or maybe under a canopy, is you want to make sure the hood's actually going to open all the way. Make sure you don't hit it so that way you don't have a nice chip mark right here. Let's go ahead and open this up. Opens up nice and wide, so we know we're good. Okay, so now once that you've had the oil draining for a little bit and it's pretty much all drained out, go ahead and tighten up this plug so that you can move the drain pan a little bit out of your way and you don't get oil all over you. And we're going to start taking off the part where it starts to get weird, which is the fact that they all have these cartridge air filters, at least everyone I've encountered. So, first things first, it has this little lock clip. I'm going to go ahead and pop that out. It's a little weird to get to, so bear with me. Okay. go. You go ahead, you pinch the back of it, and eventually it'll come out for you. Now comes the part for the special tool. Now, when you put it up in there, see it has these little notches in it, and that's what you're going to be lining up to these corresponding tabs on the edge of the oil filter cartridge. You feel it slide on there nice and snug. That's when you know you're on there. Once it starts coming loose, you want to make sure that you have your drain pan underneath, because what's going to happen is it's going to ooze some oil out, just like that. Then go ahead, let that drain a little bit, and then we'll continue on here in a minute. All right, so once you have your filter out, go ahead, take out the element here. It's gonna look kind of like that. Next thing, there's a little O-ring right in here. So a little screwdriver works great. You can just kind of pop it out. You don't have to be that careful with it. I mean, it's used, it's gonna go away anyway. Then what I like to do is kind of clean out all the old oil the best I can. That way you're not recirculating all that stuff, at least as little as possible. All right, there we go. Pretty much cleaned up. We'll open our new filter here. We're gonna go ahead and use a Toyota brand one. You can use other ones. We like to use the actual factory brands if we can, or maybe like a Can-Am or something. So it'll come with your O-ring and a new filter. So go ahead and put the filter on the little metal center there. Just slides right on like so. Pull your O-ring out, slide it right here on the cartridge. It'll sit right there in a groove. Once it's all the way in there, you know you're all installed. Next thing is, grab your oil you're gonna use. And then we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna take some of that oil and we're gonna put it on the O-ring here. This kind of makes it to where it's going to be a little bit easier to install, and it just torques down better. And it also helps when you loosen it later. That way you don't have to try so hard to get it off. These cars, they take the 020 full synthetic. So that's what we have here. So I went ahead, I got it on the O-ring. Let's go ahead and get that installed back in there. It just goes back in the way you put it on, or took it off rather. You put that same tool on here, and then just tighten it up. You'll feel it snug down. It's not going to be easy going in there because you got that O-ring and everything. You're going to be torquing it kind of down, but you'll tell once it actually seats. Give it a little extra tighten, and you'll be good to go. once you're all back together, it's time to go ahead and fill it up with oil. Now, if you wanted to, if you were a little nervous about it, maybe it's your first time doing it, you can leave off that last tray, that one we took off. You can leave that off so that way once you start it up, you can see if you're leaking or anything. I went ahead and put it back on because I've done this a whole bunch of times. So usually if you do it right, you know you're gonna be good. So let's go ahead and get some oil in this car. Now these call for, I believe it's right around 4 quarts. I think it's just over. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in 4 quarts now, and then once we start it up, get that oil filter full, we're gonna go ahead and recheck it, top it off, make sure we're all just right on that dipstick. Now something we probably should have talked about a little earlier is with the key fobs, with the newer hybrids, I don't know if the older hybrids had them, but we've only had this 14. You're gonna wanna make sure that this key fob is not left inside the car while you're doing the oil change, just in case. You don't want it to start or anything like that without any oil in it. Obviously, that's gonna be a bad situation. So what we did was we had this inside the house, far away from the car, just in case, just to make sure nothing starts. Let's go ahead and start this up now and get this oil running through it. Once we start it up, the way we do it is, now you turn on that start button and then you hold the gas pedal down to the ground. That's what's gonna actually make the engine start. Let's go ahead and get it done. All right, it started. There's no big puddle of oil underneath, so we know we're good. We're gonna go ahead and lower this down and then check that oil level, make sure we get that right. All right, so we got it on the ground. Let's go ahead and check this oil level. You wanna pull it out once, wipe it off, because that's not really a real read. On the second time, we're gonna check, and what we want, see if I can get you to see this here, is there's 2 little dots. You want it to go ahead and be up here with this dot here, just like it is. So we're actually good right just as it is. But now that the work's done, we're not actually done. Because there's actually something on the inside of the car that we gotta get done to get that little maintenance required light off. All right, so now that we have this all on the ground, let's go ahead and turn out that maintenance required light. So first, we gotta turn it on. We gotta make sure we're on trip B, where instead of saying odometer here, push this button, trip B, or is it trip A? I always forget.
Trip A.
Trip A, okay. Trip A, we're gonna turn it off. We're gonna hold this down while we turn it on. And it'll do this little flashing lines. As soon as those lines go away, it's gonna flash all zeros, and we're all reset. All right, well, we've completed the oil change on the Lexus CT200H. I hope this helped somebody. If it did, shoot me a like, maybe give me a subscribe. We're actually gonna do some more fun projects later. This is kind of just an intro, maybe help some people do some oil changes on their car they're putting a lot of miles on. That's why we got a hybrid. Anyway, yeah, swing back by the next time we have a project, and we'll see you then.